Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to a webinar presented by Decisions on the automation revolution and what we're calling building a foundation for intelligent process automation. I'm going to give definition to those things. Some of you may be coming to this webinar already understanding what those terms are, and some of you may not. So we're going to go through a series of slides we have prepared. We're going to talk about automation. We're going to talk about specifically intelligent process automation, what that means to us at Decisions. My name is Heath Oderman. I am the Chief Technology Officer and a co-founder here of Decisions. Decisions is a 12-year-old automation company. And we started our company with the belief that everyone out there is building software incorrectly. For the last 20 years, I have worked closely with my co-founder, one of the smartest people I've ever known, Carl Hewitt, in terms of building projects that allow people who know what needs to be done to get them done. And I love to tell people that I think we learned one of the most important lessons we could ever learn in elementary school. We sit at the end of the lunch table and you whisper something to the kid beside you. The game is called telephone. You say something like, I'd like to attend a webinar today. And each kid in turn whispers that message to the next kid at the lunch table until it goes all the way around the lunch table. And at the end of the lunch table, a young man will stand up and announce that lunch is over, school is over, we've all been dismissed and we should go home. When in reality, the statement sent to the first kid is that I'd like to attend a webinar on process automation. That lesson is simple. The more people involved in the conversation and the further we get from the original message, the worse the outcome. Yet that's how we all build enterprise software. And I think that's in a lot of ways how people right now are approaching automation and automation initiatives in their company. And I think it's dangerous. At Decisions, we believe that experts should configure software, that experts should write rules, that experts should design workflows. And I don't mean rule experts, and I don't mean workflow experts, and I don't mean software experts. I mean people who know what patients need to end up in what bed in a hospital, people who know what an interest rate should be for a loan, people who know how an employee should be brought into an organization and made successful. Those are the experts I want to talk about. So let's get into it. The automation revolution, building a foundation for intelligent process automation. We'll talk about the what, why, and how. I'm going to use this slide just to keep myself on track. But to dive into the why, the first thing I want to say is that with regard to the automation revolution and everything that you're hearing about today, everything that you're reading about from industry analysts, I don't think there is a revolution. I think it not in the way that they mean, right? I've always been personally really fascinated with the founding fathers of the United States of America. They did something that was different in the world. America was the first colony to really successfully break from imperial British rule. And the founding fathers knew that they were in a pivotal moment in history. How do I know that? I have a book with the letters, the comprehensive letters between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. The United States was founded by flawed men. Whether or not you agree with their politics, whether or not you agree with the way they lived, none of that matters to me. What matters to me is that if you read the writings of these two men, they knew that what they were involved in would be remembered forever in history books. They understood that they were in a pivotal moment in history. They wrote about it to one another, and they thought about their actions and they thought about their words in the context of the fact that they knew that what they were doing was pivotal, that it was in fact a revolution. My question to you is this. I've never been able to really get my mind around it. Is the fact that they were right only true in retrospect? And do we all, as individuals in business, as business leaders, as business owners, as team members of businesses that are trying to do challenging things in challenging times, whether or not it's times fraught with opportunity or it's times fraught with challenges, do we all always believe we're in a pivotal moment in history? And it's only by virtue of looking back that we're proven right or wrong. You see, I think the automation revolution, I think that technology and automation in business, especially businesses that serve people, and I think all businesses serve people or they probably have no purpose. But I think in all businesses, there's constantly revolution happening. And I don't mean revolution in terms of somebody storming a beach, transforming a government and walking away. I mean revolution in terms of the idea of something that goes around and around and around, revolving constantly in a cycle. If you look at technology and you look at the way it impacts business, there are truths there. You can see if we plot technology's evolution in business on a horizontal timeline and we pick some arbitrary events to make our case, we can make the case that automation and technology impact in organizations is in fact accelerating, that the availability of tools, the availability of concepts, the free availability of machine learning, everything is getting easier and easier. People say it's democratized. It's becoming easier and easier. It's accelerating. But I really think you have to take this timeline and you have to wrap it around from beginning to end. Because we've heard for years about automation, right? Whether or not it's the simple introduction of an ERP system in an organization many, many years ago to streamline production. Whether or not it's a customer relationship management system that's put in place that over time adds more and more features. Automation is a reality that has been impacting business since the computer landed in every office in North America and in the world. So I really want to make the case to you that we are in a moment of automation revolution, but it's a continuous cycle. And it's a continuous cycle that should continue and should be a cycle. We need to, as business owners, as human beings, as people who want to do better, constantly look at how to apply technology to our problems the best way that we can. To that end, I think everyone needs an IPA strategy. What is IPA? IPA, to decisions, is intelligent process automation. There's a lot of definitions for this. And a lot of these terms that we use in technology get used by different people in their marketing campaigns and on their website. It gets used in a lot of different ways, and so it can be hard to ground ourselves in a shared understanding. I'm going to attempt to give you my understanding today so that we can share that at least for the length of this presentation. For me, intelligent process automation is a series of techniques that you can use to make the business more efficient. The business can be made more efficient through all kinds of different ways of thinking about automation. You've heard a lot in the news. If you have read anything on LinkedIn, from Gartner, in the news, and the Wall Street Journal, over the last 4 or 5 years, you've heard about robotic process automation. I tend to think of robotic process automation as kind of a vertical activity automation. You're automating activities. Activities help an individual worker become more efficient, and when taken in aggregate, it makes the whole business more efficient. You have more classic technologies, business process management, or business process automation, workflow automation. You've probably heard those terms. That really is about taking a process, right, or a sequence that goes from one end to the other and engaging automations along the way or activities along the way to get things done. A lot of people will tell you, because it's popular, that the intelligent part of an intelligent process automation initiative or an intelligent business process management system is combining the techniques of classic automation, RPA, and machine learning or artificial intelligence to make the system better and to make the system more efficient. And I want to make the argument to you today that that's wrong. Intelligence is human intelligence. It's the intelligence of people. And it's in my opinion and the opinion of Decisions, we are in fact an automation company and we produce an automation platform. We'd love to talk to you more about it. But it's our opinion that intelligence and intelligent process automation has got to be human intelligence and it's got to be expert intelligence. I think that's really important. Over the last several years, we've heard lots of words used to describe what goes on in business, what goes on in automating and optimizing businesses. Whether or not these are simple workflows, requests, and approvals, whether or not these are decision management systems that are used for fraud detection, whether or not it's robotic process automation to do activity automation, or it's integration and message bus systems that are meant to connect all of the systems across our organization. The new term that we've heard a lot is hyper automation, the acceleration of automation in the industry. These are all different names for the same thing. How do we as an organization do things systematically? How do we do things with the help of software? And how do we do things that enable our people, the people in our organization, to either bring their intelligence to bear on a process at the right moment of time to provide that discretion, right? Or how do we make those people more efficient so that they can get work done? An intelligent process automation strategy is an intelligent process automation platform with an end in mind. And I think this is really important for everybody to understand. I read an article from Gartner just the other day. They said that 56% of companies in North America, that's the US, Canada, and Mexico, 56% of companies have at least 2 automation initiatives underway right now. And many of them, I wish I had a quantity for many of them have more than 10. So just think about that for a second. If more than half of all companies have at least 2 automation initiatives going on right now, those automations could be, we go back to the slide talking about the names for these things, it could be a simple scripting project that a single individual in the organization has taken on to do their job more efficiently. It could be an RPA center of excellence that's meant to process invoices more quickly across the organization. It could be a BPM or a decisioning project that's meant to look at big data and over time develop trends and ensure that we're giving the right insurance product to our customers. But if there's more than 2 and they're not coordinated and they're not collaborative, then we know how quickly and how easily technology gets out of control and gets unmanaged. It's very important for companies to know where they're going with automation, where they want to get with automation, so that they can coordinate those activities, those 2 initiatives or those 10 initiatives or those 20 initiatives, and make sure that the business is served effectively, not only in the short term, but over the long term. An IPA strategy often involves any number of software features or technical features from an automation platform. An intelligent process automation platform, we find, combines a series of techniques that makes the business effective. That starts with business rules, right? Business rules are all about defining and declaring policies. These are the things that indicate fraud. These are the thresholds over which we're allowed to provision equipment. These are the thresholds under which people are allowed to buy things without approval or take holiday. Rules are business policies and practices put into code. Rules might be written by people who know. Rules might be defined by getting inferences from using machine learning models to dictate rules. But a rule engine is an important part of a process automation platform because a rule gives you governance. Workflow manager is important. In any process automation platform, you have to be able to actually automate the process, move data through a sequence of steps, engage people. We're going to talk more about these features in detail in a few slides. I just want to introduce you to them as we talk about a process automation practice and a process automation strategy. I want you to have these features in mind. So workflow is about moving data through a sequence of steps, engaging people and engaging systems. Mining agents, constantly looking at and evaluating what can be automated and how you've automated things. Constant improvement, that's that revolution, that's that cycle. Integrations. You can't automate things if you can't get the data to and from the systems that matter. Everyone has systems. Salesforce, SAP, HubSpot, G Suite, spreadsheets, Excel, you name it. Everyone's got multiple systems. You've got to be able to integrate with them. And then interfacing and reporting is a critical piece of knowing what's going on in the system and who's doing their work. Intelligent process automation, we have a compass that we use. An intelligent process automation platform serves the business by doing the following. It allows you to look at, analyze, think about what needs to be automated. It allows you to automate it, and it allows you to get that done continuously. So we put together what we call the Intelligent Process Automation Compass. It's shown here on this slide. The top half of my compass we think of as process mining, and the bottom half of the compass is process automation. When we talk about process mining, we're talking about elevating and analyzing. Elevating comes at the end of the cycle usually. Analyzing comes at the beginning of the cycle. But it doesn't really matter where you start on the compass. If you already have an automation initiative underway, if you've already got some workflows in place, or you've already got some RPA in place, you've started with automate, that's fine. But analyzing allows you to identify things using source systems and pinpoint problems. Process mining allows you to look at your SAP installation or your NetSuite installation and find out who works in a process, how long they take at different points in a process, and maybe where there's opportunity to skip steps or automate. Analyze where variations and violations occur, which allow you to, of course, write business rules and optimize automation. Process mining allows you to discover processes that should be automated. Process mining allows you to oversee optimization over time. Once you automate, constantly looking at what's been automated, finding ways to make it more efficient. That's that cycle that generates the best possible value and return on investment for the organization. So we think at the top of the compass, right? What should drive your IPA strategy is knowing that you have the ability to mine, discover, and optimize processes. Then it gets down to the nitty-gritty of building, right? You need to be able to build and develop automations, and you need to be able to execute them. At Decisions, we believe that the intelligence for intelligent process automation comes from people. And so we strongly believe that the folks who are doing the automation or participating in the automation should be as close as possible to the business expert. Getting back to my game of telephone and that lunch table, right? The closer we are to the first kid who whispers the message to the second kid, the clearer the message is and the more representative of the original message it is. So the closer your business experts are to the software, the better. This often involves having an intelligent process automation strategy that centers around a no-code or a low-code offering, or software that has low-code or no-code components. This allows lending experts to write lending rules. It allows hospital administrators to write bed management rules. It allows the experts to be close to, if not directly involved, in the configuration of your software. Automation is about building workflows and about building business rules, supported by reporting, supported by machine learning models, supported by artificial intelligence, so that you can make the business overall more efficient. And within the overall automations, you can make individual activities more efficient. So how do we do this? You do this with any number of technologies. This gray compass, this is derived from the previous compass, but this is what we refer to as the Intelligent Process Automation Reference Architecture. An Intelligent Process Automation Reference Architecture is meant to encompass all of the technology, all of the software, all of the components you could bring together in any proper enterprise that has multiple automation initiatives underway to serve the business. Not all of these pieces are critical. Not all of these pieces are relevant to every automation project, and not all of these pieces need to come from one vendor. In fact, I don't think there's any vendor out there on the market who offers a comprehensive IPA platform that has all of these pieces and parts in their software application. I think it's actually very important that you pull things together from multiple vendors to make sure that you have exactly what will serve your business best, and I'll get to a little more of that in a minute. What are the pieces that make up an IPA platform from an architectural perspective? You have to be able to get data in and out. So those are the outer bounds of my ring there. Data comes in over API boundaries. Data comes in from messaging. Data is thrown off from the Internet of Things, from IoT sensors, right? Data comes in from the edge and is processed through rules. Rules on the other end might fix up, clean up data, qualify data before it's sent out to other systems. So having data in and data out at the boundary is important. At the top and bottom of the ring, you'll see user interfaces. Users have to be able to engage. Whether or not that's simply in looking at KPI reports and knowing that automations are working correctly, or it's more concrete. It's actual user involvement to provide discretion. We have an exception in our invoicing process, and we need a person to look at this and make a choice about it. User interfaces are a critical part of an IPA platform. And then, of course, at the bottom of my ring is assuming every company has multiple systems of record that are critical. They might be departmental. They might all be IT managed. They might be specific to your business. They might be custom and homegrown. But every company has systems and software systems that need to be updated, or from whom data must be acquired so that an automation can occur and so that an automation can act correctly to help you serve the best interests of your customers as it goes. In that inner ring, then, you get into what I think makes up the core of an IPA platform. That is a rule engine, a process mining capability that allows for constant evaluation and evolution of the processes. And then the heart and soul, what I call the business automation core, is really that combination workflow and rule engine. A combination workflow rule engine has the ability to do tasking and SLA management. That's all about user engagement. Reminders for users, clear task lists for users, engagements of users, and then integrations, right? That ability to integrate with a UI path to get data from a software system. That ability to integrate with an Oracle database to pull data in so that a user could maybe make a decision, or that a decision could be made automatically by subjecting that data to business rules. That's that business automation core. I think it's really important to understand the breadth of technology that is available in IPA. I think it's really important for you to understand what matters the most to you. If your company has heavy business rules, you have lots of policies that need to be enforced, the rule engine might be more important to you. If you don't have business experts that are going to be able to write business rules, well, then the workflow piece might be more important to you, and the rule engine might really be secondary. But there's lots of pieces, parts to the IPA puzzle. With all the technology that's available, the speed with which it's becoming available, with the number of initiatives that analysts like Gartner say are underway in your company right now, there really is no question of whether or not you need an IPA strategy. It's a question of how big your IPA strategy needs to be. Why isn't it a question of whether or not you need one? Because what you're doing right now, again, is going to set the framework for the future. A lot of people think right now the US is headed into a recession. Doesn't matter whether or not you agree with that or disagree with that. The idea is that we have to be able to adapt to changing market conditions. Whether or not that's macroeconomic conditions like a recession, or it's competitive conditions like a new player who's cloud native, who springs up in our industry or in our vertical. Changes happen all the time. And so it's really important that you know where you're going as an organization and where you're going with automation so that you can guide the efforts and energies of your organization, coordinate the efforts and energies of your organization with regard to automation that makes you the most adaptable company. Charles Darwin said it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor is it the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Whether or not you agree, I think it's an important moment, at least in our lives and in our current economic conditions, to consider that statement. How quickly do your software systems and how quickly do the automations that your team is building right now adapt to change? Regulatory change, governmental change, competitive landscape change, macroeconomic change. Change is all around you. How quickly you adapt is really the do or die question. Modularity and agility are really important. If you think about that IPA, that reference architecture slide I presented to you, I'm talking about all the pieces, parts that you could possibly use in a comprehensive IPA strategy. Having a solid business process automation core in the middle of your IPA strategy, in the middle of what you intend for your company to have as an IPA platform, that piece should be modular and it should be agile. It should be easy to change, right? And it should have great integrations that allow you to very quickly consider which pieces and parts are the most important for you. How do you start to do that? In order to start to do that, rather than give you a quick technical answer, I'm going to use my co-founder, Carl Hewitt. He loved to ask me questions that always challenged my thinking. And one day he asked me why a brick is a brick. And I gave him a complicated answer about the machinery that was used to manufacture bricks and how it evolved to be exactly the size it is. And he laughed and he said, no, a brick is the size of a brick because it's the perfect balance between building efficiently and having flexibility in what you build. For example, if everything was built out of cinder blocks, our buildings would all look more similar to one another than they do today. Think about a neighborhood. Maybe city streets are different, but think about a neighborhood. If every house on your neighborhood street was built out of cinder blocks, how similar would all the houses look? Right? We could build out of a grain of sand. Houses would be infinitely flexible and customizable. They'd look very, very different from one to the next, but they would take forever for us to build. So a brick is the right balance. It's just big enough for us to build quickly, but it's just small enough to allow us the flexibility to change. In an IPA platform, I think you need the same kinds of things, right? You need a platform, you need a system, you need technology pieces that aren't constraining to you. You don't need an IPA platform that serves to solve all of your business's problems. You need an IPA platform that can integrate with all of the systems that solve your business's problems, come alongside those systems and make them better. An IPA platform should be composable. You can take bricks, and out of bricks you could build small structures. You could build a wall. You could take that wall and you could put it in place to do something else. Right? It's very important that in your technology strategy, in your IPA strategy, you consider composability. How many of the pieces and the parts of your IPA platform, if your investment in business rules is strong, How much can that be reused across the organization? Always be thinking about the 2 to 4 year horizon while you solve for today. Automation platforms should be the size of a brick, and our use of them should also be the size of a brick. And what do I mean by that? If we were going to build we've got a great icon here of a brownstone. If we were going to build a brownstone and we were a brand new brick mason, we'd probably produce a terrible result. But if we were going to go and on our neighborhood street, back to our neighborhood street, and we were going to build a beautiful brick surround around our mailbox, we could probably produce a pretty good result. If we did 2 or 3 of our neighbors' mailboxes, they'd get good, right? The mailboxes would start to look fancier and fancier. And at some point, we'd develop enough skill as a mason that we could build a brownstone and have that brownstone be beautiful and have that brownstone be solid and stable and last for decades. Your automation projects, just like your automation platform, should be brick-sized. It's really important to know where you're going, that you want to build brownstones, but it's important to start small. Because again, if a brand new brick mason built us a brownstone, we'd have a terrible townhouse in which to live. So it's just as much about the platform as it is the builders. And understanding what that perfect size is a personal decision. You as an organization know what your automation needs are. You as an organization need to plan what your automation needs are going to be. Right? You as an organization might benefit from running a process mining tool across a number of systems in your environment to look for where automations could make the biggest impact. And then you need to decide which pieces and parts of that puzzle are the most critical for you. So what's the proper size and scope for each aspect of an IPA platform? This slide says it well, right? Your strategy needs to consider what's the size and the scope of each part of an IPA platform that you could use. Some people already have messaging systems. You have an enterprise service bus. That's outstanding. Keep it. Some people don't need an enterprise service bus. You simply need to use RESTful APIs or database integrations to get data to and from some core source systems that you have. Those are completely valid decisions, and those are completely viable ends of the spectrum. How do you know which one is right for you? Think about that 2 to 4 year horizon. Not what are the automations you need to do today? What are the automations you're going to need to do, and how do you build toward them? So what are the big features? When I talk about business rules and I talk about emphasizing the importance of business rules, or I talk about really emphasizing the importance of process mining for your organization, what are those pieces and parts of an IPA platform? How would they work for you? Let's start with the rule engine. A rule engine is usually policy enforcement. I mentioned that earlier. We're talking about if-then statements. We're talking about the big tables that you keep in Excel that have multiple factors that result in an interest rate or that result in a job title for a particular new employee. Those are business rules. Those are policies. A proper rule engine, a proper technology-based rule engine in your environment should have multiple rule types. Tables, rule tables, matrix rules, rule trees or binary trees, if-then type statements to handle edge conditions, right? You need multiple rule types. I think a best practice would be to figure out what rules are the most common in each automation and standardize around 1 or 2 rule types per automation, right? The more consistent, the more repeatable, then the better the outcome. Building mailboxes leads to brownstones. You should have rule auditing. If you're going to allow the experts to get close to the software, I talk about letting the hospital administrator or the loan officer get close to those rules and write those rules. If you're going to allow that, you have to have really good rule auditing. You have to know who made the changes, what the changes are that they made, and how they're going to impact your environment. So a very, very strong rule auditing component is critical in a business rule engine. And then lastly, I think it needs to be editable by the business experts. That's probably clear to you by now. But I think that's probably the most important aspect of the rule engine, because business rules and that policy enforcement, that's the piece that I think has got to be closest to that first kid at the lunch table. Workflow. Workflow is a word that is almost meaningless in today's world because every system, every software application talks about the flow of work through that system. When we talk about workflow at Decisions, we mean something very specific. We mean a sequence of steps that marries up people to systems. Sometimes it's system to system, sometimes it's person to person, but usually it's people to systems. Workflow is a sequence of steps that takes data through a set of transformations Master data management is workflow, taking data from two systems and making sure that the addresses reconcile. When the addresses don't reconcile, using a third system to fix that address, or putting it in front of a person who knows what needs to be done and allowing them to do what needs to be done, that's workflow. A workflow engine should have a number of steps. It should be integratable to other software systems in the environment without very much work. A workflow system should have tasking, and that means service level agreements, it means notifications, it means nudges, it means alerts, and it means reporting. A workflow engine, I also think, should be as close to the business users as possible, right? Not everyone's going to be able to build workflows from scratch, but everyone should be able to understand them visually. Everyone should be able to edit them, and every workflow should be able to be process mined. Speaking of process mining agents. Process mining is all about looking at data. Usually this is case management or state data, right? What were the different phases of this product that we build on the manufacturing assembly line? Or what are the different phases we have in HR with regard to onboarding an employee, and who are the people involved? Process mining lets us look at all the states that data goes through, who the people are that are involved. It lets us analyze our timing, it lets us analyze our bottlenecks, and it lets us find variance. Why do we want to look for variance? Because we all think there's happy path processes in our organization. At Decisions, I believe that when people join Decisions, their first day they're welcomed with a sign up front. They have a little bit of orientation where they fill out some HR paperwork. They have a meeting with their manager. They're signed up for training. They're given their equipment by IT, and it always happens exactly the same way by exactly the same people at exactly the same amount of time. I believe that. But then when we use our process mining tools on our HR onboarding processes here at Decisions, what we discover is that there's a lot of variance. Steps get skipped. People are routed around certain things based on their role, based on their title, based on the work that they have to do. Some people go straight to training. Some people get into their role for a couple of weeks and then go to training. That variant analysis, to me as a business owner, helps me understand what we should be doing, what we are doing, what the gap is between the two, and where automation can help me get more consistent results and create a better experience for my new team members. So mining agents is all about analyzing data, analyzing processes, whether or not it's built in your workflow and business rule engine or not. Integrations. Every single IPA platform must be able to integrate with existing systems. This is just critical, right? We as a society have developed an appetite for technology that is insatiable. And there are so many technology platforms in every single company, companies that are large, companies that are small. And you have to be able to integrate with those systems to pull data out of them, to put data back in them, to keep them aligned. Knowing what integrations you need is about knowing that 2 to 4 year destination. Interfacing and reporting. Most workflow tools have some kind of tasking component. Any system that's performing automations needs to build trust. And trust comes from seeing the results over and over again, believing in the results, challenging the results, being challenged by the results, and then ultimately building trust. So reporting capability, whether or not you use a Tableau, a Burst, you want to use something like a Sisense, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that going back to people, going back to those experts that you want close to the environment, that you want close to the engine, it's that they're able to see what's going on in the processes. They're able to see what's going on with tasking. They're able to see what's going on in the fully automated processes, and they build trust. There's almost always a human component with everything you do. Whether or not you're engaging the person, saying, hey, here's the activity where I need your input, please give me input, and then I'll carry on with the automation, or you're presenting someone a dashboard to let them know the system is working well, you need interfacing and reporting. These are some of the key features. You go back to that gray, that ring, that intelligent process automation reference architecture. You see these in the business process automation core. And you can start to think about aspects of these 5 key components that reach in and out of that business process automation core through the user interfaces, the systems of record at the bottom, the data coming in and the data going out through the API boundary, all governed by rules. So I have a bit of a challenge for you. My challenge is really to think about automation a little differently, and to think about automation in terms of how ambitious your strategy is. You need an intelligent process automation strategy. There's no question. there's at least 2 automations. There's probably a 60% chance. There's at least 2 automation initiatives happening in your company right now. At Decisions, we have a number of customers who are wildly successful with our automation tools and our automation platform. That's fine. We have a municipal parking authority who generated $300,000 more revenue annually, and also at the same time lowered their processing costs by 97%. Those 2 things combined for a massive ROI. You can go online right now, you can Google. You can look at business process automation tools, you can look for workflow tools, you can look for intelligent process automation tools, robotic process automation tools. You will find use case presentations with staggering ROI claims. They're great. Automation is imperative. Automation can make our companies more effective, more efficient, can allow us to focus our energies at running the business, at figuring out what changes are on the horizon and starting to predict those changes instead of just adapt to them, right? It frees us up as people to get better work done and to use our intellect more powerfully. But for every one of those staggering ROI use cases, there really is the truth that people are important to the process. And I know I've beat that horse a little bit. I just want to make this point a little more clearly. In 2002, there was a wildly popular automation initiative, if you will, that was meant to bring more justice to our courts. It was meant to look at data, technically, and remove human bias. That's a noble endeavor, right? If we remove human bias, we can remove any kind of preference, nepotism, racism, ageism from our judicial system. Justice is, in fact, supposed to be blind. What's fascinating is that this was an automation initiative. This is a machine learning initiative, and it was wildly promoted throughout the United States. But back in 2002, there was a paper written by a couple of academics, one from the University of Virginia School of Law and another from Texas A&M, where they studied the data after the process was put in place in our courts. What did they discover? They discovered that most judges in the state of Virginia overruled the algorithm's risk assessment. So rather than the algorithm producing bail requirements for people facing trial that were more fair and that were more reasonable, the judges had to overrule the algorithm. Why did they have to overrule the algorithm constantly? Because if you read that next line, what that next line says is that the algorithm was actually increasing disparities. The algorithm looked at the data and it produced the opposite result that we as a society needed. Whether or not it was right or wrong, it was producing the wrong result. So we can say, by definition, it was wrong. This gets to the heart and soul of what I want you to hear from the entire webinar. Intelligent process automation, please don't ever be fooled into thinking that intelligent process automation is a series of technology techniques, a series of technology platforms that you can piece together to automate things in your business, to automate some workflows, to automate some business rules, and to use machine learning models to analyze your data and your customer data to make better decisions than you can. Because good predictors are not necessarily good decisions. The best decisions come from people, come from innovators, come from experts. And we need human discretion. We need human guidance over automations. Let your 2 to 4 year automation strategy be a human strategy. Let your intelligent process automation strategy in your organization center around how your people adopt automation, how your people start to trust automation, how your people participate in automation to keep your company adaptable and to keep you ahead. It really is about people. How do you get started? If you don't have, most of you probably have an automation strategy. Most of you coming to this webinar are probably just curious about what we say about automation, and now you know. I hope it's not, I hope it's what you expected. But some of you don't have an automation strategy, and I want to give you some easy, simple things to work on. None of this is rocket science. None of this is hard, right? It's really simple. Take stock of those current initiatives. You probably have at least one. You probably have at least 2. Take stock of those current initiatives and understand what they are, who's running them, what the value is that they intend to get. What's the value to your business of those current initiatives? And plan your destination. right? Maybe those initiatives are already the building of the mailbox because you already know what the brownstone is that you intend to build, but maybe it's not. Plan your destination. What are the departments you have in your organization that could benefit from automation? If you don't know how to plan your destination, get in touch with somebody who's good at process mining or good at process analysis and get their help in planning your destination, because you want to know that end in mind so that you can figure out what the most critical pieces of an intelligent process automation architecture are, what the most important technology pieces are for you to get to that destination in the future. And then you can marry up those current initiatives with that destination. So then you go and you pick those pieces. I talk about an IPA practice. That's that gray reference architecture. What are the technology pieces, right, that you need to have fulfilled? Is it an integration capability? Is it the workflow piece that's really core to what you're doing as a business? Is it the business rule piece, or is it the combination of workflow and business rules? Then you need to go find the right technology for those pieces. That I obviously have an enormous bias I can't help you with. You should pick decisions. And then start on smaller projects to build that expertise, right? Starting on smaller projects allows your team to build expertise. It allows your team to build trust. It allows your team to build confidence, and it gives you confidence that your team can do it. What are some great examples if you don't know where to start, right? Some real simple use cases that you can build with any real automation platform. Departmental purchase requests, new employee onboarding, fraud detection, right? Things all of us deal with in different ways, and things that all kinds of automation platforms are out there and that are really helpful in dealing with. At Decisions, we have a completely no-code intelligent process automation platform. It allows you to build end-to-end processes, from data retrieval to user interfaces to data send. We integrate incredibly well with systems of record. We sequence data through steps. We connect people to process. And we have a great business rule engine that allows you to define, refine, and evolve your business policies. We'd love to show it to you. We'd love to connect you to our team. And so it's kind of a sales pitch here at the end, a call to action. If you don't know where to get started, you're not sure where to get started, or you're sure where to get started and you're not sure what tools to use, we would love to talk to you. That's it. I don't think there's much of a revolution in terms of a pivotal moment in our history. I think there's a revolution that's constant and ongoing with regard to automation in the enterprise. And I think right now, what we are looking at in North America is the time to take stock of your current automation initiatives and prepare for the next 2 to 4 years. The next 2 to 4 years, regardless of whether or not we go into an economic recession, are fraught with opportunity for automation to make us more effective. I just encourage you to get started. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your attendance. I hope it's been somewhat useful, and have a great week.